Nobody? Leela Manjari Mataji? Or I think Ruchi Mataji's on the call too.
Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glory, yes.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudevs.
Please accept mine too. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
Mataji, I can read.
Oh, very nice. That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, just give me 1 minute so I can start the screen share.
Have we said the prayers?
Yes.
Okay, here you go. Text 22. Tam eva vatsashraya bhritya vatsalam mumukshubhir mrigya padabcha padhatim anya bhave nija dharma bhavite manasi avasthapi bhajasva purusham. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My dear boy, you should also take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is very kind to His devotees. Persons seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death always take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service. Becoming purified by executing your allotted occupation, just situate the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart. And without deviation for a moment, always engage in His service. Purport. The system of Bhakti Yoga described by Queen Suniti to her son is the standard way of God realization. Everyone can continue in his constitutional occupational duties and at the same time keep the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart. This was also instructed by the Lord Himself to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Go on fighting, but keep me within your mind. That should be the motto of every honest person seeking perfection in Krishna consciousness. In this connection, Queen Suniti advised her son that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Hritya Vatsala, which indicates that he is very kind to his devotees. She said, you came to me crying, having been insulted by your stepmother, but I am unable to do any good for you. But Krishna is so kind to his devotees that if you go to him, then the combined kindness of millions of mothers like me will be surpassed by his affectionate and tender dealings. When everyone else fails to mitigate one's misery, Krishna is able to help the devotee. Queen Suniti also stressed that the process of approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not easy, but it is sought after by great sages who are very advanced in spiritual realization. Suniti also indicated by her instruction to Dhruv Maharaj that Dhruv Maharaj was only a small child, 5 years old, and it was not possible for him to purify himself by the way of karma kanda. But by the process of bhakti yoga, even a child less than 5 years old or anyone of any age can be purified. That is the special significance of bhakti yoga. Therefore, she advised him not to accept worship of the demigods or any other crosses, but simply to take to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the result would be all perfection. As soon as one places the Supreme Personality of Godhead within one's heart, everything becomes easy and successful.
Wow. Thank you very much, Leela Manjari. Would anybody else like to read text 23? It seems like there are a lot of people on the call at this point.
I can read, Mataji.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
So text 23. It is 4:8:23, right?
Yes, it is.
Nanyam tatha padmapala salochanat dukkhachiddam te mrigayami kanchana yo mrigayate hasta grihita padmaya shriye tarer anga vimrigyaman annaya. Okay. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear Dhruva, as far as I am concerned, I do not find anyone who can mitigate your distress but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose eyes are like lotus petals. Many demigods, such as Lord Brahma, seek the pleasure of the goddess of fortune, but the goddess of fortune herself, with a lotus flower in her hand, is always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord. Purport. Suniti pointed out herewith that benediction received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that received from demigods are not on equal level. Foolish persons say that no matter whom one worships, one will get the same result. But actually, that is not a fact. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that benedictions received from demigods are all temporary and are meant for less intelligent. In other words, because the demigods are all materialistically conditioned souls, although they are situated in very exalted positions, their benedictions cannot be permanent. Permanent benediction is spiritual benediction. Since a spirit soul is eternal, it is also said in Bhagavad Gita that only persons who have lost their intelligence go to worship the demigods. Therefore, Suniti told her son that he should not seek the mercy of demigods, but should directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead to mitigate his misery. Material opulences are controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his different potencies and specifically the goddess of fortune. Therefore, those who are after material opulences seek the pleasure or mercy of goddess of fortune. Even the highly placed demigods worship the goddess of fortune. But the goddess of fortune, Mahalakshmi herself, is always seeking the pleasure of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone, therefore, who takes to worship of the Supreme Lord automatically receives the blessings of Goddess of Fortune. At this stage of his life, Dhruva Maharaj was seeking material opulences, and his mother is advised slightly that even for material opulences, it is better to worship. It is better to worship not the demigods, but the Supreme Lord. Although a pure devotee does not seek benedictions from the Supreme Lord for material advancement, it is stated in Bhagavad Gita that pious persons go to the Lord even for material benedictions. A person who goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for material gain is gradually purified in association with the Supreme Lord. Thus, he becomes free from all material desires and is elevated to the platform of spiritual life. Unless one is raised to the spiritual platform, it is not possible for him to completely transcend all material contamination. Suniti, the mother of Dhruva, was far-seeing woman, and therefore she advised her son to worship the Supreme Lord and no one else. The Lord is described here as lotus-eyed, Padma Palasalochanat. When a person is fatigued, if he sees a lotus flower, all his fatigue can be immediately reduced to nil. Similarly, when an aggrieved person sees the lotus face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately all his grief is reduced. A lotus flower is also an insignia in the hand of Lord Vishnu as well as in the hand of Goddess of Fortune. The worshippers of Goddess of Fortune and Lord Vishnu together are certainly very opulent in all respects, even in material life. The Lord is sometimes described as Siva Virinchi Nutam, which means that Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma also offer their respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mataji. Okay, we have one more verse, if anyone would be interested in reading.
I can read.
Oh, thank you so much, Manasi Ganga Mataji.
Maitreyo vacha evam sanjalpita matur akarnyarta kaman vachaha saniyam yat manam nischakrama pitu purat. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued. The instruction of Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, was actually meant for fulfilling his desired objective. Therefore, after deliberate consideration and with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house. Purport. But the mother and the son were lamenting Dhruva Maharaj's having been insulted by his stepmother and his father's not having taken any step on this issue. But mere lamentation is useless. One should find out that the means to mitigate one's lamentation. Thus, both mother and son decided to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord because that is the only solution to all material problems. It is indicated in this connection that Dhruva Maharaj left his father's capital city to go to a secluded place to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the instruction of Prahlad Maharaj also that if one is seeking peace of mind, he should free himself from all contamination of family life and take shelter of the Supreme Godhead by going to the forest. To the Gaudiya Vaishnava, this forest is the forest of Vrinda or Vrindavan. If one takes shelter of Vrindavan under Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani, certainly all the problems of his life are solved very easily.
Thank you so much, Manasi Ganga Mataji. Okay, I was unable to be on class yesterday, but I was just looking back at a couple of the verses prior to the 22nd verse. And I am very, very impressed by Suniti as the second mother of Dhruva Maharaj. She's extremely wise. She's extremely intelligent. I don't know that most mothers would give such advice. Only a very advanced soul could give such advice, to be honest. And there are good people in the world, some good people that might do this, but it's not very frequent. So she's advising her son in this translation, and she's telling him, look, you should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the whole point was that he was being hurt. He got very hurt and insulted by his, I'm sorry, Suniti, I believe, is the first mother. I'm sorry. It's the other one is the second mother, and that is, let me see again, Suruchi. Forgive me, I had the order mixed up. Yeah, so Suruchi was the stepmother of Dhruva Maharaj. And his mother, his real mother or birth mother, Suniti, was giving advice to him after he felt hurt by his stepmother. He wanted to sit on his father's lap, and the father did nothing to stick up for his son because he favored his second wife, Suruchi. And I'm just looking here. I don't know why it says he feels ashamed to accept me. Suniti was saying this in the past, and maybe somebody can just give me a little synopsis later on about that. That she is considered an unfortunate woman and so Dhruva Maharaj was being fed from her breast. Okay, but Suniti is actually quite brilliant, and she's, I think, very, very spiritually intelligent. And he's crying because he wanted his father to put him on his lap too, but he put, I guess, his other child on the lap. And so he was lamenting, he was very upset about this. And the stepmother was not very nice to him. And so he came crying to his mother, Suniti, and her advice was, look, go to the Lord. Seek the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's very kind to all of his devotees. And anyone who seeks liberation from this world, this material world in the cycle of birth and death, takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service. So it was very interesting in the translation. It's here, it even says, whatever occupation you have, just execute your allotted occupation and put the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart. In whatever activity you're doing at any time of the day or night, whether it's, to earn money or whatever it is, always think of the Lord within your heart. And you can even offer whatever it is that you're doing, offer this to the Lord as service. Then we are spiritualizing our material existence, and we are serving the Lord at all times, which is really what he wants. Okay, because this is the only way we can get back home. So this is the kind of talk that Suniti is giving her son, her Queen Suniti. And so Prabhupada says in the purport that it's through bhakti yoga that one can, it's the way to God realization. That's the only way. Okay. Well, there are other ways, but this is the highest way. Okay. And he is telling, of course, she is describing this to her son, and that everyone can keep doing their occupational duties and also keep the Lord within their hearts, as was said in the translation. And again, this was stated by Arjuna, to Arjuna by the Lord. He says, just go on fighting, but keep me within your mind. Okay. So if we want to become perfect in Krishna consciousness, all of us, we continue to do our duties in this life. And at the same time, we keep Krishna in our hearts always, never forgetting him, thinking of him always. This is the only way. And this is how we can seek perfection, okay, of this life. So Queen Suniti, she's advising her son that that the Lord is called Britya Vatsala, which indicates he's very kind to his devotees. So she's telling him, you come to me crying, okay, being insulted by your stepmother, but I can't do any good for you. Okay. But if you go to the Lord, if you go to him, then the kindness of millions of mothers like me will be surpassed by his affectionate and tender dealings. So when no one else can help you in this life to lessen our distress, Krishna is able to help the devotee. And she tells her small son, he's just a small child. She's telling him these very advanced concepts when you think about it. She's telling him, look, to approach the Lord is not an easy thing, and it's been sought after by great sages and for who are advanced in spiritual realization. And so being only 5 years old, Dhruva Maharaj couldn't purify himself through karma kanda. Now, that's the ritualistic form of yoga, if you will. But through bhakti yoga, or devotional service to the Lord, even a child less than 5 years old can be purified. That's amazing to know that. It's difficult, yet the process is very easy. And that's why it's so important, okay? That anybody at any age can take up devotional service to the Lord through bhakti yoga and reach that stage, or eventually reach the stage of liberation, or reach perfection, if you will. And so she's telling her son, look, the demigods can't help you. All right, there's no, because ultimately, just go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there won't be any problems. You're going to have, it will be perfect. Your life will be perfect. And once we do that, I think this is pretty fascinating. I think this Queen Suniti is so spiritual. I can think of this in my own life. My grandmother, I would say to her, why are these people being so mean? I would say, I was just a little kid. I couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old. And I remember very vividly that I asked her that question. And I repeat this all the time because this is exactly what Suniti is telling him. Don't, I'm coming to my grandmother crying about people. And she said to me, oh no, I don't know. You have to ask God. She told me to go to God for my results, to have, to mitigate my situation, because I was feeling a lot of frustration, a lot of depression and sadness at a certain point. And I was a very small child. And my grandmother said, I can't help you with that. I can comfort you for a while, but the reality is you have to go to the Supreme Person. You have to go to the Lord. She said, God, because that's, I grew up in a Christian tradition. And she said, if you go to God, God will help you with everything. And so, I started going to church with her. I was just a small kid. And I didn't know what I was really doing, but I knew I was supposed to pray to God. I didn't really understand him. I just knew that, she believed in him, so I believed in him, because she had more knowledge than I had, And another thing that is important here is she's saying, look, don't go to the demigods, because the demigods cannot give you what God gives you. The demigods are still within this material universe. They might be very empowered, but they cannot do what the Lord can do for you. And if you put all of your faith in the Lord, which is bhakti yoga, you will not be disappointed. And, since then, I was used to think, oh, big deal. But you know what? Those little instructions, they weren't as big as, my grandmother didn't have what Queen Suniti had to tell her son. She didn't have all of this. My grandmother didn't have all of this knowledge, but she understood that the answer was God. So that's big. Okay. It's huge. And he listened to her. Okay. And I did not at that time have a stepmother, but I can't even imagine the first wife, or the first mother saying, listen to her. But she knew she was smart. She says in text 23, she says, look, I don't find anyone who can mitigate your distress but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And, many demigods like Brahma seek the pleasure of the goddess of fortune, but the goddess of fortune with a lotus flower in her hand, is always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord. So she's telling him, look, if you're going to worship the demigods, they're not going to, the kind of a benediction that you would get from the demigods is not equal to the benediction you would get from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. And there are foolish people that walk around saying, oh, it doesn't matter who you worship, just pray, to this or that or whomever or whatever. And, you'll get the same result, but it's saying here, Prabhupada says that's not a fact. Okay. That so if you pray to the demigods, you're going to get a temporary result. Why? Because the demigods are temporary. They are going to pass away. I mean, yes, they live very, very, very long lives. Some of them, I don't know, thousands of years maybe, but yet they still have to take birth. They still have to die. They're still going to get diseased. They're still going to get old, just like we have to. And so those kinds of benedictions are not the high ones. They're meant for the less intelligent spiritually. And so even if they're exalted, we know Lord Brahma is very exalted, but his benediction cannot be permanent. We can only trust a spiritual benediction that is permanent. And so she's telling her, Suniti tells her son, don't seek the mercy of the demigods. Okay, go directly to the source, go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to lessen this pain that you're feeling by this insult that you got by the stepmother. Okay. And only a very smart woman would do such a thing. I mean, think about it in real life. There's jealousies. I know that, I've seen a lot of that in family. One is jealous of the other, who's jealous of the other. And then they put the child in the middle, and they all fight against each other using the child. Okay. And so when this is done, it's not very good. It doesn't help the child and doesn't help anybody else, certainly. So what I saw by her, Suniti is extremely, not just intelligent, very selfless. She has the qualities of an advanced devotee, at least from what I'm reading here. She's very advanced because she's not thinking of herself at all. And, trying to get her son to be closer to her than to the other wife. No. She wants him to have the best situation possible. Okay. And so that's another point that I think is very advanced by Suniti. It's implied here, the way she is telling her son to go about things. So everything that's material, all the material opulences that we would want are coming from the goddess of fortune. Okay, so even it's not just jivas, but even demigods seek the goddess of fortune for material opulences and pleasures. But here's the point again, that the goddess of fortune seeks the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So ultimately, even the demigods and all these others that are being worshipped, the goddess of fortune, they are getting their power. They're seeking their pleasure from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they report to the topmost, if you will. So if we worship the Lord, that includes all the demigods anyway. It includes the goddess of fortune, and you get her blessings, and you get the blessings of other advanced souls. And so now we already know this. It's being stated here and stated in Bhagavad Gita. A pure devotee doesn't seek benediction from the Lord for a material advancement. Okay. But it says that pious persons go to the Lord even for material benedictions. And so we're not advised to do that in Krishna consciousness. I certainly don't do it. I usually have been told, ask the Lord for what it is in that situation that he wants you to have, and to give you the ability to accept whatever he's going to give you, because he knows best what we need. So we can't go around ordering the Supreme Personality of Godhead and telling him what we want. We can do it through maybe Guru, or we can ask Prabhupada or Gurudev, please help with this or that. But the truth is, we should not go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with any material desires. Now, even those who do it, ultimately, it's saying here, they ultimately, and it might take a lot longer, but they ultimately get raised to the spiritual platform. And so once again, this Suniti, it says even here that she was a far-seeing woman, and she advised her son to worship the Lord and no one else. Now, I didn't know this, but I'm finding out that if a person is fatigued, if he sees a lotus flower, all his fatigue can be immediately reduced to nil. Well, I hope maybe that'll happen someday if I see a lotus flower. And so if you're in distress, and you see the lotus face of the Lord, then your grief becomes reduced. And so the lotus flower is important. It's an insignia in the hand of Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, and in the hand of the goddess of fortune. And again, the point is that the demigods, very exalted ones, that Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, also offer their respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. So what's the point? Telling her son, hey, ask the goddess of fortune to help you, or ask this one to help you, or some other demigod, or Lord Shiva. Why bother? They all come under that same umbrella. They're all worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so they're all included automatically. So I think that's a very important point. Just like in my Christianity, Jesus is automatically included in all of the all my prayers to the Lord. Christ is included. Lord Brahma is included. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, all of them, they're all in there. Although Lord Chaitanya we can pray to separately if we wanted. It is possible. He is the Lord himself. So, I won't even, touch that subject so much right now, but all of the demigods, let's say, they are under that umbrella. Now, in the last text, Dhruva Maharaj leaves to go to his father's house. I mean, he left his father's house, rather. He was going to go to be with the Supreme Personality. He wanted to search for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And, the mom and the son, both, Suniti and Dhruva were lamenting that he was insulted, and that his father did not take any step on the issue. I don't know. Sometimes when I see this, and I've seen this in my own life, it kind of, to me, weakens the father, the position of the father. It just seems like that. I really, that's probably totally material. Obviously, it's material, but I've seen this time and again, and here it is in the Vedas, that, this one's doing this, that one's doing that, and the father sits back and he doesn't do anything. And, but here Suniti's saying, don't even bother getting yourself upset about this. Okay. You, instead of crying over this, instead of me sitting here crying with you, why don't you do something to stop this lamentation? And we know both of them, the mother and the son, because she was also lamenting, take shelter of the Lord, because that's the only solution that we have. And so Dhruva left his father's capital to go to a secluded place. And Prahlad Maharaj instructed also that if one is seeking peace of mind, he should free himself from all contamination of family life and take shelter of the supreme Godhead by going to the forest. Now, we all know that going to the forest is not something recommended today. I mean, this was done in antiquity. It's not something we just pick up and go to the forest. I mean, but there have been devotees I've heard of that have done this. They just get up and I know one woman who left her devotee husband. She just left him and went to India, and she went and slept on a cot or some kind of a straw bed. And she ended up dying in India. She never married again. She renounced. And of course, the husband was devastated because she didn't really give him any choice. So I still say that we have to be a little bit more careful today, because life today is a little different than it was then. It was a lot easier, I think, to go, to the forest at that time. If we could do such a thing, if we were in such a position to do that, and we could go to Vrindavan, okay, all, under the protection of Srimati Radharani, then all of the problems of this life would be easily solved. All I can say is this applies to today, and maybe y'all could, join in and discuss with me. First of all, not just Queen Suniti. I mean, I can understand her completely through my own life and her advanced spiritual knowledge, but also the reliance upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead to solve our problems today during this horrible time. And I don't know about all of you, but I haven't felt this way all year, but I'm starting to feel a little bit stir crazy. I feel kind of cornered in the house. And of course I have the Lord. Of course, I'm doing service at home, and, I can associate with the Lord. That's the only thing really that I feel is keeping me going. Our Guru Maharaj was talking about the vaccine, and that, we have to be very careful before we decide to take this vaccine. I've heard of people dying from it already. And he did inform us that somewhere more than between 700 to 1,000 people have already died from this vaccine that they're giving. And you don't know which one is which. When you go to a place to get the vaccine, you get what they give you. So even if you research it, you can't really do too much about it unless you know what vaccine they're giving. So, it feels like what to do. Here's the dilemma. Will I ever be able to travel again? Will I ever see my Guru Maharaj again? Will I ever see my husband's family again? because I don't want to get this vaccine. And I have to rely completely. I don't have the answer to this. I have to put it in the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the only one that can lessen this pain and make it so that I don't fear what could happen with or without this vaccine. But we are, in a very precarious situation now. And if without the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we don't have any hope, really. I mean, that's just the truth. It's not gloom and doom, it's the truth. So that's what I have to say today. Please correct me or, add to it or explain. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I hope I didn't make you fall asleep.
Hare Krishna, Govardhan Lila Mataji. No, not at all. Like, it was very inspiring to hear from you and to hear about the pastime of Dhruv Maharaj. Yeah, a very intelligent person would be able to bring himself to the point of taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any situation. And yeah, I believe like that's my struggle sometimes, that I know what to do, but still I cannot bring myself to do what is needed to be done in that moment. And one of the struggles is also like to be able to relate what I'm doing, and to be able to see that as service to the Supreme Lord. But that's the recommendation and that's the practice. So like little bit at a time, like I have to imbibe and include it as part of my life, to wish to please the Supreme Lord in while doing my duties. So thank you very much for sharing about the pastime and also relating it to your life. And yeah, sometimes we have no other choice left around us but to take shelter of the Lord. And when we take shelter of the Lord, like I really like that sentence that Prabhupada wrote, that he is able to give us the affection of a million mothers, more and even more. So it's actually true. Like when we genuinely turn towards the Lord, we will feel his affection and kindness and sweetness. Thank you.
Thank you. Honestly, I mean, oh goodness, Leela Mandri Bhakti.
Hare Krishna, Gordon Leela Mataji. Thank you again for a very, very fantastic class. It's always so nice to hear from you. I was just also thinking in the same lines that my sister is commenting also, that like many times we actually know what is right for us, but still we actually need a lot of strength to actually act upon it. And it actually reminded me of Arjuna, because even in Bhagavad Gita, he asks the same question to Krishna, stating that, what is the reason that we are actually not able to act, although we know what's right for us. And he says that it's the weakness of heart. So actually, unless we really feel the shelter of Krishna, I think it's really, really, really hard to give up that weakness of heart and like you were also sharing that the father is so weak in this case. And even previously, like in the story of Sati, like her own father, she was giving up her life. Her own father actually did not do anything. It's just, although like it was happening in his house in the arena, he did not do anything. So like you were pointing out about Suniti, that one has to be extremely devotional actually to find that inner strength that is coming from the Lord Himself, to be actually able to stand for themselves and to be able to stand for what's right, to be able to be the strength, not just for themselves, for others as well. So that's where my thoughts were going. And thank you again for a very nice explanation and sharing your realization. So thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prema Rasa Mataji. We have about 6 minutes left. Anyone else like to share something?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the wonderful class. Yeah, I was just thinking about Suniti, and like you were sharing that she is such an intelligent mother. So to even have a mother who inspires us to take shelter of the Lord is a sign of great fortune. So I was thinking that, and my mother, she faced a lot of problems, but despite that, she is a very good devotee of the Lord. She like never complained that, oh, why am I having so many problems in my life or anything. I've never seen my parents complaining. They have always been very good devotees. So like if they would have done that, then maybe I would have also felt that, oh, God is being unjust, this, that, and there's no need of going to God, because I've seen some of my relatives do that. But my mother never did that. So I'm very grateful to her. That's all I wanted to share.
You're
Thank
very
you.
fortunate. Thank you very much for sharing.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Govardhan Leela, and everybody else who has been making very nice comments and interrelating this pastime within their life. I was just focusing on the purport of text 25 at the very end. When Srila Prabhupada's talking about Prahlad Maharaj, and if one is seeking peace of mind, he should free himself from all contamination of family life and take shelter of the Supreme Godhead by going to the forest. So, I mean, we all have family life of different degrees. You know, we don't all have demons as fathers, but I was just wondering, you know, if that I guess, you know, Srila Prabhupada says he should free himself from all contamination of family life. I don't know. I guess that really struck me as something to meditate upon, being that family life can take you away from one's spiritual progress. And then, so that's something that I'm going to have to think about. And then he continues on by saying that, like, for a Gaudiya Vaishnava, we should be taking to the forest of Vrindavan or any other spiritual place, Mayapur or whatever. And if you take shelter of Vrindavan or wherever under Srimati Radharani, all problems of this life are solved very easily. And so I just taking to Srila Prabhupada's instruction that, pray to Srimati Radharani as she is the energy of the Lord. And we've been talking about how, the woman, especially I think her name is Suniti, how as opposed to the male energy has a lot of I guess instruction or intelligence, taking shelter of Srimati Radharani is something that I need to do more of, because this time is very trying. We heard a class yesterday from Gurudev, and what to do, take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine. If you don't take the vaccine, you might not be able to travel. All this, it's, there's demons out there that are possibly in time, trying to control the masses, etc. I don't know. But we're hearing here from Srila Prabhupada and from this pastime that all these things that, can be taking the peace away from one's mind, if one just takes shelter of the Lord, if one takes shelter of Srimati Radharani, that the Lord will give us the peace, and he'll give us the direction. So I just wanted to say that. Didn't really have much more. But that very end of 24 really struck me. So Hare Krishna. That's it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Manasi Ganga Mataji. Well, if there are no more comments, I think we can end for today. It's already 6:01. Thank you all for being there for me and helping me in my Krishna consciousness. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.